just been watching you.
Yeah.
Up there on a concert hall, wasn't it? Stage. And yeah, I can see why you say that you're a bit tired, because you're jumping up and down and everything, weren't you?
Yeah, we go hard, you know, rock and roll.
You rock and roll. Yes, and how are you finding it over here?
Oh, I love it. I come over at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, yeah. I was at Beverley about 5 years ago, and solo. And so like I got the band now, so we come back, and I love the audiences over here. They're like engaged and crazy. They like to sing along, and I like it. It's good.
Do you feed off the audience? You did seem to do.
Yeah. I'm kind of useless without them, really, you know. It's really weird when I do the show by myself.
Do you do a similar show then when you do it on your own, as to when? Because your band are quite expressive as well, aren't they?
Yeah, it's you know, I have many years of doing it solo, and you learn to, you know, suck the blood of the audience, and then when I got the band in, for the longest time I had bands that were very tastefully, you know, backing me up, and I said, no, you should be trying to upstage me at all times. You should, you know, claim your turf and go nuts. And the wilder they are, the better, as far as I'm concerned, you know.
You've got a theme, haven't you? It's the American circus. It's like the story of America.
Yeah, my dad ran a little circus in Detroit when I was a kid growing up. So I learned a lot about, you know, physical performance through that, and that kind of piqued my interest with that sort of strange show business, you know, underbelly, and I don't know when or why I started putting all the historical stuff into the songs, but it just seems to satisfy a thing. You put like J. Edgar Hoover and Abraham Lincoln and you know, Richard Nixon all together on a train and see what they talk about, and it turns into a song.
That's cool. Yeah. And you cross the different borders of genres a little bit, because I noticed that on your tour you're playing in some blues sort of clubs as much as you are folk.
Yeah, I kind of feel like really at its heart, it's rock and roll. You know, I consider myself a rock and roll singer. I just happen to play the banjo. And I think that's kind of right, because the banjo, you know, in its early days in America, in like the mid-1800s, the banjo players were always the sort of unsavory characters who would come into town and bust everything up and then leave before the damages were paid, you know? So they were definitely the punk rockers of their day, so I kind of relate to that, and I think the wildness of the show grants me admittance to the rock and roll world, and then the banjo, you know, is sort of like it's like a Trojan banjo, you know. I can, like, because of the banjo, I can sneak my way into like folky places and bluesy places, and they don't know what happened, you know.
Well, you get an enthusiastic response from people, don't you?
Oh, they're lovely. I just, you know, that's why I do it, you know what I mean? It's like trying to communicate, you know. Why am I singing this song about, you know, Abraham Lincoln to these middle-aged British people, you know? What do they need to know?
Why are you?
Well, it's different every night, so, you know. I always ask people, what do you like? You want an ugly song or you want a nice song? And I think people like when I think a lot of performers do a show and they think of it as a speech. Like, this is what I've prepared, and I'm going to present this speech to you. But I think the best performance is more a conversation. You know, like, we're in the room together, and I say something and you respond, and that leads to what I'm going to say. And it, so even with the same set of songs, there can be a wildly different show, based on who's there and how drunk they are, I guess.
And you've got a really crowded tour. You play in a lot of places.
It's a big one. I normally come over for, like a short, fast, hard-hitting 2 or 3 weeks. But I've always wanted to kind of stretch out and do the festival circuit. So a friend of mine who's a booking agent, that Maya, who I guess we're Band of the Year with you guys, who are great friends of ours. We share a booking agent, and she got us into like 13 festivals over the course of the summer. So I'm here for 2 months with those, plus about 25 other shows to fill in the gaps, and so I kind of feel like I'm living here for a while. It's like a residency, not a tour,
Does it feel like a holiday?
Yeah, not yet, because we've been boom, but I have left some reasonable gaps to sort of recuperate. And for the first time ever, my wife and daughter will be joining me about halfway through the tour. So we got some space where we can go see some strange British things, ride a donkey on the beach or something.
If you're working so hard and you're on tour, you don't actually see any of the places that you're playing.
Rarely. You see, one punk rock dump and then the train, and it's kind of so this is nice because it's a mix of like these great sort of outdoor festival things and some rock and roll clubs and some folk places and a week in Ireland, and so it's kind of...
Sounds blissful.
What's that?
Sounds blissful.
It's going to be really nice, as long as I stay healthy and sane, it'll be great.
Oh, yes.
Is there anywhere you want to see them whilst you're travelling around Britain?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to... I don't have many shows up in Scotland, but I have some friends who live up that way, and I really want to see a bit of Scotland. We want to take like a little weekend up there to see some... Yeah, some natural stuff. Because as a musician, you see all the cities, I'd like to see some pretty places. And I think maybe because I grew up in Detroit and spent most of my life in New York City, the places where I do best are always these kind of burnt-out, industrial, cold, northern towns. And those are my people, but it always means that my tours are a little gray. So I'd like to find the color green if I can.
There's plenty of green in England.
Right, it is. So... yeah, I'm really excited about the whole thing. And we're just getting started. We're about 5 days in. So.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Right. Well, if people want to come find you online, how do they do that?
Yeah, everything's just under my name. It's curtiseller.com or, Twitter /Curtis Eller and Facebook, Curtis Eller Banjo, I think. But just put my name in and it'll come up. There's 2 Curtis Ellers that I know online, and one is like an ultimate fighting champion. So, I'm the other one.
And do you have any albums out at the moment?
Yeah, we have currently available 5 albums. The newest is a live album that we recorded on our last UK tour last year. It's partly recorded at the Adelphi in Hull. And right, the good old Adelphi, and part in Bristol, and taken from several things, and then the newest proper album is called How to Make It in Hollywood. And we have a lot of advice on how to do that.
It's an interesting title, is that
right? Advice we've chosen not to take.
That's cool. Is there anything else you want to say?
Oh, I don't know, just a shout out to my bandmates who are eating right now, and the band over on this tour is Shay and Louie, who are my American bandmates from North Carolina, and then our bass player on this tour is Bradley Blackwell, who lives in Yorkshire, or lives in York proper, actually. He's a Coventry boy. And then about halfway through the tour, the Americans go home, so they will be replaced by a couple of English ringers. Drummer from Manchester, Pete Marshall, and Lisa Franklin, who's from Hull. So, anyway, it's an expanding and contracting lineup.
I'm going to say thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for...
I really like